Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mitch Taco Bell. I'm your host for Tall Tales with Taco. If this is your first time joining us and listening to a conversation, I encourage you, please sign on, hit the comments, hit the like button, subscribe, but let us know what you think. And tonight, I am really honored to have a good friend on, Mitch Swan. He's a retired Marine colonel. Um, Mitch is one of those guys that has the piss and fire and conviction to go out and hit on and take on the enemy. And by that, I mean he is actually going up against politicians. And to me, I think that is probably one of the hardest fights anybody could go to. And people have asked, "Hey, have you ever thought about running for Congress?" Yeah, I thought about it for a second, but would I put my family through it? No, not really. I don't feel like having to fight because I might take off the gloves and hit somebody. Whereas he is polished Marine colonel with the background and discipline to be able to fight fairly and basically take all the terrain in front of him. I love it. Um, I'm blessed to have so many friends that have gone on to do it. Congressman Ronnie Jackson and I were running buddies over in Iraq in '05. And now here he is in Congress as a freshman congressman. And he's doing great things. So without further ado, I want to bring Mitch Swan on, and he can tell us a little bit about himself. Hey, how are you, Mitch?
My brother,
Mitch?
how are you tonight? You look sharp. I'm
Hey,
digging that man cave you have there too.
yeah, it's kind of a mess. You know, you got the Medal of Honor stuff there. I got right behind me, I got a hat from the Swede. He was on the
Yeah.
podcast from Heartbreak Ridge.
Now,
But
you've been one or two places. I did walk Heartbreak Ridge. No. What was the one they just did in Okinawa?
are you talking about the Pacific?
Yeah.
The TV
Hacksaw
show?
Ridge. I confuse it with Hacksaw
Oh,
Ridge. I walked
yeah,
that.
no, so Heartbreak Ridge, Clint Eastwood,
Yeah.
and I
1980s movie. Not one of his best, but it was fun to watch.
it was a fun movie, and as a Marine, it was a fun movie, and it was classic, and of course you had Swede,
Yeah, you
and,
did.
and I saw him on LinkedIn, I sent him a message and go, "Hey, I'd love to have you on my show as a Marine because you played one, and we all loved you, your character, 'cause I'm no don't know about you, but back in the day, I am sure that you had a couple Marines that were 6'4" from Oklahoma, you know, friggin' grew up throwing bales of hay on the back of a tractor, and they were humongous.
Dude, I served at First Force Recon from 1990 to 92. Just a logistics officer. I checked in 7 days before Kuwait got invaded. And then my life turned upside down on August 2nd. We deployed for the first time since Vietnam. I smallest guy in the company. I kid you not. I stand with those officers, man. And I'm 6 foot nothing, but these guys are like 6'2", 6'3". They all play rugby.
Right.
They all drive Harleys. And yeah, a lot of peer pressure to stay in shape there. No AK-47s were shot while we were running either. So
Yeah, but you know what? I got a picture of you. I got a picture of you. You look like you're 14 years old when you were commissioned.
yeah,
And we
May
all look that young.
1987. Hey, what happened to that guy? He looks optimistic. He loves America. Everything's going great.
Yeah, but look
And
at
here we
Leslie. I mean,
are.
she is awesome. You
And
you
she's
married
been
way
my
above your
rock.
pay. You married way above your pay grade, my friend.
Yes, that's why she's uninvited down here. So there you go. That's in Honduras. And I'm on a UH-60. The Army's driving me and my buddy Kevin Shea. Shout out to Kevin. Kevin and I got our blood wings on the same day back in 1992 in January.
Yeah.
Very sadly, we got to reconnect over there in Iraq in 2004. I was kind of heading out. He was heading in. And we lost Kevin on October 14th, 2004. Big guy, made me play rugby. That's why I got a broken finger and a messed up salute my whole career. But Kevin was with General Toulon. He was running their comms. He was the comms officer,
Right.
Lieutenant Colonel Select. 38th birthday, a RPG ricocheted off the air conditioner, hit him right in the chest. Very sad day. Very sad day.
And that was
But
in 2004 he passed?
2004, yeah, on his 38th birthday. Lovely wife, Amy, and two daughters. And hope they don't mind me talking about him, but what an incredible guy. He was like John Wayne. He was 6'2", you know, and we grappled a lot because that's what we do, but I never won. I mean, that's like wrestling a grizzly and an oak tree if they had a child.
Oh, yeah, look at him, man. He's a stud right there. Yeah,
Yeah.
you were getting a little wiser in those years, but of course, first Gulf War,
Yep, there I am with a
chocolate
dip in my
chips.
mouth. Almost all my pictures involve Copenhagen. I had to get rid of them and just a throat louser tonight. But I'm packing. If this thing goes sideways, I'm putting a big fatty in my lip.
Ah,
That
yeah,
that was my first day in country with Force Recon in the first Gulf War. That was at Portage Bay. Yeah, remember those chocolate chip crazy things we wore? Got my gas mask on. I'm ready.
yeah. I got my wings January 18th. When the war kick off? The 16th or 17th? I
Yeah.
think I think we got our wings on the 18th. And when they you were talking about blood wings, what people don't realize when you get your wings, and we're just comparing wings. I've got big set, but when you get your wings and they put them on your chest, they would leave the backs off, and this was kind of a
Sure.
tradition. They would leave the backs off, and they would come up and pound the wings into your uniform, which would cause you, of course, to bruise and bleed underneath.
All right.
And
If we're getting props, I'll be right back. Keep talking for the audience. No dead air.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So we were talking about that, and this admiral stands up there and he goes, "Boys, I'd trade anything to be with you
Yeah,
guys."
that's the shirt.
Oh wow.
That's the shirt. So all the guys, and some of them signed the back, but yeah, yeah, that
Yeah,
was all.
that's hazy now. They don't do that anymore.
Yeah, Stone Phillips told us it was hazing back then too, but we didn't care. He wasn't at Del Mar Beach.
Yeah, I mean, this
And they
is
were my friends,
91.
and some of these wonderful things that we do are ways that we bestow manhood on each other. I mean, that was quite an accomplishment. Anyone can go to
Yeah,
the exchange and buy a set of those, but you have 19 brothers that you really respect, and they put them on you the way we've been doing it forever. It means something, and
yeah.
you know, pain is temporary, right? But it was one of my fondest days. I was very proud of that. Love those guys.
How long were you with Recon?
Oh, just 2 years. The I had come back. My first duty station in '88 was Marine Corps Air Station Tustin, which of course is gone now. It has our 46s. And I did a Westpac on the USS Tarawa, also gone. That was cut in the scrap metal in the West Lock of Oahu like 8 years ago. And I got back in 6-month deployment, and I was going to pump out again on the New Orleans with HMM 161.
Mhm.
And the sergeant major saw my leadership style on board the Tarawa, and Force Recon called my CO and said they had an opening for logistics officer and asked me to sign up, come down for an interview and join. So excited, but I made it very clear to them. I'm aviation logistics. I know nothing of all your motor T stuff, how to use, arrows with the reports they used, and, everything with the paralock, the scuba locker, and boathouse
Right.
and comms. And the captain, Bill McGowan, literally looked at me and said, "Mitch," because I'm like, "What school can I go to?" He goes, "Mitch, don't worry about it. It'll be a great job. You'll succeed. The only time you'd ever have to deploy the unit um, would be for war. And we haven't done that since
Vietnam.
Vietnam." So I checked in July 25th, 1990, and August 2nd, the world changed. I deployed the unit for the first time. Lots of people are there. No one person makes all the decisions. So I was mentored, and we did it, and that was a great blessing. But I was only there for 2 years till '92. Got to go to Honduras with them, Panama,
Yeah.
and then I went over to Hawaii. Great place. I think every Marine needs to pull a tour over there at Kaneohe Bay. And
Yeah, it's a good time.
92 to 95, and then I was brought to Athens, Georgia, lead instructor for the Navy Supply Corps School. And 99 came around, 12 years in. I figured I'd already gone to war and deployed. Everyone else is making money. I didn't like Bill Clinton a whole lot. And like a lot of Marines, I just pulled out, and I became a stockbroker. And just around 2001, I just missed it. Everyone that's a Marine knows this. You miss the camaraderie, right? And the people.
Yeah.
And so I went down and joined 4th Mod down in Atlanta. And 4 months later, the world changed. I ended up deploying over 6 years for my family. And I got some great job experience out of that. And it really grew me as a person. But, like all Marines, if you weren't in the reserves and that thing kicked off, you all wanted to come back.
Oh
Everybody
God, yeah.
up, right? So,
Yeah.
and
Well,
then you see,
yeah, take your sip. I'll tell you this. So the war kicks off. I'm running a brothel. I have a house full of aviators. They must have, my neighbors, when I moved in, I bought the house. I had what they call a crash pad. So all these guys were flying in from all around the country, living at my house and going to work at either American or they were going into the reserve job. And so they just all naturally, two guys to a room, and we all hang out and have a good time. So they neighbors probably thought, wow, man, this house full of bachelor gay guys or something. I don't know, all these guys, no women, and because all their wives were back home. But when the war, well, I got engaged, and as I got engaged, I was telling everybody, okay, your time's up. You're out of here. You're out of here. You're out of here. I'm getting married in a month. You're out of here. Go find a new place. And so the guys found it. I got married. I married literally the girl 6 doors down, beautiful
Wow.
Texan. And now how many women can say that they pushed their babies on the same street that they grew up on? But as things happen, right? Your cool man cave solo stuff disappears when you're out on a trip. Like, hey, honey, where did that shirt go that I got? Oh, you mean that thing with the holes in? It got torn up in the laundry.
Yeah.
But then you really start missing all the guys. They invite you to the parties, and you're at the squadron functions and whatnot. Hey, come on, join, join, join. I'm like, nah, I did my 10 years. I'm good. I'm good. Then the war kicks off. Then you're like, I really
Yeah.
I didn't never miss the circus, but I miss the clowns. And so when I found a job, it was back on recruiting duty, which I had left. And I said, hey, honey, I'm going to join back in, go recruiting duty. Don't worry, you don't get deployed from recruiting duty. But then I volunteered to go to Iraq, and when you're writing the monitor and reserve guy, and he's got all the reserve bics, and you're going, "Hey, jackwagon, I'm volunteering for this, so I want this, this, or this. I don't want the purple hat job. I don't want this all night thing down at CENTCOM, watch officer, midnight watch officer. I want to be in Iraq with Marines." And then my wife reads it and goes, "You volunteered for this?" That went over like a pregnant pole vaulter. But once we got over that, life was good. So you
There
did
were
the
Marine
same.
families having that conversation, East Coast to West Coast, brother. A
Yeah,
lot of
you
us.
you didn't sit there and train all our lives through OCS, TBS, through the fleet to not get into the fight. Now,
Well, that's
that
where
being
we're at, though, right? With our country. I may have to change gears for a second, but we cannot, So yeah, I go back in the reserves. I came in '87, and you saw the young kid there. I'm an old guy now, but I got out in 2017. That's Reagan to Trump. And in those 3 decades, what the hell happened to our nation? I used to tell people I fought for a country so that everybody could live how they want to live. That's individual liberty, right? Not
right,
conforming, individual liberty, sovereign.
right.
Say what you want to say, pray how you want to pray, love who you want to love, even if it offends me, and vote how you want to vote. We're Americans. We're supposed to be quirky. But this idea, this woke culture we're going through right now, where comedians can't tell jokes, or that my Christian faith that was hate speech, are
Yeah.
you serious? I'm an advocate for a religion based on love, and all of a sudden it's hate speech, and we're off the mark. And what we fought for is eroding. It's wholly not the nation that we grew up in, that we fought for, and that we work in and try to raise our families. And
I
guys our
agree.
age, man, we've
It's
got to get
changed.
back engaged in this fight, or it's going to be gone.
Well, when you look at who's up in office and you have social media giants like AOC and her little mod squad of socialists, and you go, how did this happen? How did we go from where we hated the Russians to embracing socialism and want to be like Russia or
Yep.
Venezuela or Cuba? I don't, I don't, I think the only thing, I had Reed Lance Rosenthal on the show and I listened to him a lot. And he had a series on education, and it was 4 weeks of things about education as he went through the whole gamut of where the educators became bent to the left.
Mm-hmm.
And now, when you are indoctrinating and socializing the kids to the point where their values and ideals, which won't be the same as you and myself, um, are impregnated at an early age on the kids. Now, you could say the Marine Corps did the same thing to us and brainwashed us and put this stamp on our chest, made us who we are as Marines. But you can take a young kid and you can guide them And if you guide them the wrong way, they grow up to be misguided people, in my mind, that are now antifa, are now rioters and anti-government and
Right.
anti-corporate and anti-whatever, woke.
What they did is they took something that's sinful and bad behavior, and then if they made it righteous. What used to be sin that we used to mock and make fun of is now righteous. You take a knee for the flag, you pull down a statue. Wow, you're enlightened. You go out there and you try to say, hey, what are you doing? That means something. That's hate speech. And I could say some more on that, but that'd be for an after-hour show. But, men like us, we grew up in a special time. And one of the things about the Marine Corps is they didn't brainwash us. They let us off the leash. They grew us, right?
Yeah.
And within constraints, and that's important. But there was expected. Children thrive with discipline and responsibility, and we've done horrible things to our kids. Remember, you made me just as a visual. I remember when Japanese women had their feet bound. And if you ever look at those pictures, I mean, they're just nubs, and that's why they walk like they walk, but they thought that was beautiful. Yeah. But that's what happens to the human soul when you wrap them in this woke culture where kids don't even know what they can say anymore. They're holding things in, like, I don't want to offend anybody. On that point, I'll share this. It's something I used to tell my Marines, especially when the social media was coming out and the Marine Corps was like, hey, what can we say? What can we not say? And there's 3 points I try to drive across to people. They're real easy. There's 7.8 billion people in the world. So point number 1 is understand we're all different. Mm-hmm. Couldn't be easier. Number 2, tolerate. Since you understand everyone's different, tolerate the differences. I'll never compel someone by force or a baseball bat to vote the way I vote or pray the way I pray. The last one is acceptance. And this is the most critical one. And this is where evil comes in. What Taco or Mitch accept or reject is moral absolutes, are personal to us. I accept this as being absolutely right, or reject that as being absolutely wrong. And that comes from our mentors, our books, our upbringing, our teachers, the Marine officers that we had, and things like that, our own life experience and self-reflection.
Yeah.
That's sacred. So what is wicked now with our culture is they'll come to me and say, well, Mitch, do you understand there's Muslims? Absolutely. Do you tolerate the religion? Of course. I hope they have an abundant life and it works out for them. But you accept their religion as being morally equal to Jesus Christ, right? Well, no, I wholly reject that. One's my Lord and Savior. This guy's a prophet. I don't buy any of it. Well, you're wrong. Do you understand those gays? Absolutely. Do you tolerate them having civil unions? Hey, I hope it works out, have an abundant life. But do you accept their civil unions as being morally equal with biblical marriage? Absolutely not. I reject that. And see, that's where the rub comes, because they want us, the things that we've rejected, they're trying to compel us to accept and water down those true things that identify our character.
Yes. Those are some pillars that have radically changed.
Yeah. Do you ever read the book? Oh, I'm sorry. You look like you're thinking. It looks like you're going to spear me in a second. I can.
Yeah. No. I mean,
but our culture is declining, Taco. Did you ever read the book by Samuel Huntington called Clash of Civilizations, published in 1996?
No.
All right. So this dude is a liberal's liberal. I mean, he was the head of the international studies of Harvard. He was Jimmy Carter's foreign policy advisor. But he recognized that civilizations are unique, and where their borders touch creates friction. And culture is very important. And he was very kind to Western Civ, man. He's like, we need all of this to be Western Civ, basically. But there's 5 indicators that most sociologists, and he pointed them out, identify as being indicators that your country's declining and probably going to collapse. The first indicator is an increase in antisocial behavior. And that's not just street crime. It's blue-collar crime. It's white-collar crime. It's corruption. But it's also pulling down statues, taking a knee, burning the flag, having a protest that turns into a riot and still calling it a protest, right?
Because it's accepted.
Right. So we have that. The second one is a decrease in family values. Like no one really cares about the family, that nuclear family anymore. It's not just about divorces. It's how do TV shows like The Simpsons and others portray it? What do people think about a male, female, traditional family? And that's on decline. The third one is a decline in social capital. It sounds complicated, but all that is not having people doing volunteer work anymore. Remember all those great public groups like VFWs, AMVETS, all these things, they're dying, right? But they had a lot of others out there, the Moose Lodge and others. But people used to volunteer and do the things in our towns that we didn't pay the town to do, but now we pay people to do that for us. So we lost that civic social capital. And, if I tell someone, hey, I need you to come down and help me feed the homeless, like, oh, yeah, man, I'll give you a check. I'm like, no, seriously, dude, I need you to come down with me and feed the homeless. Oh, just take it out of my donation and hire someone. That's lazy. Fourth one is a decrease in work ethic. We all see that. That's self-evident right now with all the help wanted signs. And the fifth one is the one that's most important to me. It's a decrease in intellectual activity. Now, I'm going to make up a number here, dude, but I was the president of a library board. I really like people reading books. I read a lot. Before the internet and Wikipedia and Google, I believe, and I'm going to make up a number, probably 7 out of 10 households had library cards because their kids needed to go do research for school projects, the Dewey Decimal System, and let me go pull some whatever. Or you had encyclopedias in the house. And
you bought the encyclopedias.
Right?
Pull them out, yeah.
I would say since Wikipedia and all that stuff came online, maybe 1 in 20 have library cards. No, I don't know that. But certainly there's been a decline in intellectual activity with us. We're not trying to enrich ourselves and grow and become brilliant men like Benjamin Franklin. We want to sit there on an Xbox. And I promise you, when this whole metaverse comes online and they all put those goggles on their head and they can go out there and live a fantasy life and escape the reality, going to be soul crushing for this country.
All right. So you have the kids that are raised on Twitter. I have an older daughter. She's my love child. I say she's my love child. So she, at 12 years old, her mom was married to an Air Force guy living in, they were in Hawaii, and she bought her an iPhone. And so that was her life, was iPhone, and her life was Twitter and how many followers she had and who retweeted what or this or that, or, and she got into trouble a lot with Twitter and what she wrote. But then you look at us, our generation, and I was just on my Facebook page having I posted a Prager University video, which was a great video talking about the blades, and the blades don't decompose. And now we have landfills full of used giant wind turbine blades because you can't break them down. You can get the metal out of the housing for the generators and whatever, but you can't break these giant blades down. And then it talked about the mining that the kids are doing around the world for, these batteries.
Oh, sure.
For the cars, right? And we want to be all electric.
The downstream pollution on that thing is horrific. And then getting rid of the battery is awful as well.
And how much it costs. So if it wasn't subsidized, there's no way a guy could afford to replace a $25,000 battery in his Tesla. And then with the advance of technology as it goes faster and faster and faster, you sit there and go, there's going to be a point, I believe a tipping point. There will be a tipping point in our generation. You remember, and I remember on Friday when we got paid, there was no direct deposit to Navy Federal Credit Union. You got your paycheck, you raced to the thing, you stood in line with all your buddies, you cashed your check, you got your whopping $200 as a second lieutenant or whatever it was. And then you went to Quantico, or you went up to Fredericksburg, or you went to DC and braved the girls up there. Now you have direct deposit. Now you have ATMs. Now you can get your entire stuff off a computer in your hand that is more computing power than put a guy on the moon. But there's got to be a point at which it implodes. And I actually fear for that day when that happens. Say the virus was worse than it was. If you wiped out 50, not even 50%, 40% of the world's population. So you took out 40% of all the people that go in the factory and turn the light switch on to make that battery, and all the engineers that design the battery, and all the people that did the engineering, this marketing, if you took out 40% across the board of everybody, this place would implode because we become so lazy. We're not the Little House on the Prairie. You and I can go out and go shoot some animals, and you and I have hunted, and we
Yeah.
can skin the animals, and by God, we're going to have some meat and backstraps and whatnot. But
It's a wholly wicked world. If you actually read the
it's going to
book
be
One
weird.
Second After, there's a
Oh
couple
yeah,
eggheads, that they write this book. So it's the 1 second after an EMP strike and then what life's like for the next few years. It's
I
horrific.
interviewed him.
It's horrific. Did you?
Oh,
That must have been
so
massive. Impressive.
the reason is last year we had 3 days without power. So the grid shut down because the pipes for the natural gas weren't insulated for that minus 14 degrees, whatever it was, minus 14. And so the power to the generators shut down, the turbines iced over. Once they got that fixed, then the turbines were iced. They couldn't do it. And we lost our power for 3 days. And I laid there thinking about that book, and I contacted his publisher on probably the next Monday, and she was in the office by herself because everybody else was home with broken pipes or whatnot. She was there, and she got me hooked up with him. We talked, and that is a scary proposition.
Well, it is. It's horrific. And then you get into things like Bitcoin or some kind of digital currency where I understand the concept with blockchain. Everyone's like, well, there'll be no corruption. We'll know where everything is and blah, 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 blah. I get that. But you'll also lose the freedom of ever doing an expenditure that isn't known and who you gave it to. You will not be able to do anything without having a device to pay someone. So, you right now you can give a kid $20 to walk your dog or mow your lawn or something like that, or babysitter tax people don't talk about. But the minute I've got to swipe payments to a 14-year-old to watch my dog or mow my grass, that kid's going to get taxed. And, when I first heard of Bitcoin, I was really intrigued by it. And what I wanted, because of all the drug lords and stuff, we all knew that this was an anonymous way to do the stuff in the dark web, human trafficking, drugs, everything, just crazy, awful, weapons sales, but it wouldn't be tracked. And I thought, wouldn't it be wonderful if someone was really brilliant enough to get all these wicked people to put their money into a digital currency and then just outlaw it or blow it away? And then make them go from the kingpins down in Colombia to, you're selling chickens on the corner street. Obviously, that's not going to happen. But, as we look at our ages, I don't know about you and your audience, but in the 70s, I could not miss a James Bond movie, right? I loved it. It was alpha male, but he had a tuxedo on. He spoke really eloquently with his British accent and killed bad guys. And then I'm watching Moonraker, and I'm like, come on, Roger Moore, you're fighting a guy that has like his own island and a spaceship. This couldn't ever happen. And now I've got 4 guys running the world, and 3 of them have spaceships, and they all own islands. And I feel like I'm in a bad, Roger Moore film.
Yeah, it's funny you talk about that. In the 70s, we used to. So I'm 56. You're probably 57.
57 this week, baby.
Happy birthday! Happy early birthday!
You.
And we lived on base.
56.
Yeah, we lived on base in Little Creek Amphibious Base. My dad was Navy, and when James Bond films would be on TV, he would conveniently say, "Hey, let's go up and play some pool at the BOQ." And my mom would be like, oh, "Okay, you got boys, have fun." We'd go up there, and he'd put his 50 cents in, get a beer out of the vending machine.
Oh my
and
God!
all the guys are sitting there watching the intro to James Bond and all the.
I miss those machines, right? It goes back to freedom and everything. But we even had them at the Navy school when I got here, up by the family pool that they have on base. Root beer, Coke, Sprite, Budweiser.
Beer, Budweiser.
And we've really turned into a nation of wimps, and that's really why I'm getting in this fight, because I'm going to go off track here. But I used to go down to New Orleans a great deal because of the reserve headquarters there, and I would do some things for them. And if you talk to a resident that's lived their whole life in NOLA, they have 2 stories. There's their life before Katrina and their life after Katrina. This one sucks. This one was awesome. Businesses didn't come back. Crime went up. Corruption went up. Just not as good, right? Lost its mojo. For you and I, especially an airline pilot, before 9/11, I could walk down to the gate and meet Taco, my buddy, and say, dude, how was your flight? Let me help you with the bags. Let's grab a beer and get out of here. Here we are after 9/11, 21 years later, and I still am taking off my shoes, taking off my belt, emptying my pockets. And I can't walk down to the gate because I'm a security risk just to meet my mother. But I have 2 million people walking across my border, not a security risk. But we lost a lot of freedoms. Our story before 9/11, this was an incredible country. But after 9/11, not just airports, but it's the whole Patriot Act. We've really been restricted and monetized and weaponized. We've had our institutions weaponized against us, tracking us. It's not the country that we grew up in. And so where I'm going with that, for everybody that's watching this, if you serve this country, we're going to have another story. There's going to be America before COVID and America after COVID. And it might be bigger than that. It might be the world before COVID and the world after COVID. But if we don't step up now, I'm afraid that in 2030, you're going to have me on the show and be like, man, let's talk about what life was like in 2022, Taco, and it's like, oh, it was awesome back then. And it's not. And so the only way we're going to roll this back is for good men to step up. Now, I'm like you. You didn't want to run for office. I did not either. My phone rang because I wrote this book, Broken Arrow, Christ's Last Stand in 2015. I was still a full bird colonel. But, with my worldview of, writing U.S. policy in the Middle East from 2010 to 2012 for Gerald Mattis at CENTCOM in those 18 nations, right? I got that gig because 2 years before that, I ran the Joint Operations Center at PACOM, and then I did a theater response branch as well for anything that was not in the battle rhythm. Earthquake, volcano, tsunami, sinking ship. Hey, Colonel Swan, get that fixed. I wrote that book because we're the last Christian nation of consequence. And so now I'm retired. I moved out to Good Hope, Georgia. I got 12 acres. I wanted to harden my position and ride life out. And my phone started ringing, and guys were like, hey, Colonel, we need you to run for office. You got Christian values. You love the country. You're a patriot. And listen, if I had a mistress, I live a very biblical life, but I will tell you what, my one mistress my whole life has been the Marine Corps. She could call me at 2 a.m. and say, pack your bags. I need you tomorrow. I'm like, I'm on my way. Bags ready. But I said no, like most of us. This is an awful situation to go up to Washington. It's going to affect your family. It's going to affect your psyche. People are going to make fun of you. They're going to threaten you. They're going to, be in front of your house waving signs of protest. And my friends were like, Mitch, hey, man, you did your time. You did 30 years. Just relax. Enjoy life with Leslie and travel. Let someone else deal with this. And that strong argument, right? But here's the problem with me when I read all these books of history and stuff. This country wasn't founded by time. It was founded by sacrifice. It's been maintained by sacrifice. And it won't slide off into the dustbin of history because of time. Like, hey, time's up for America. It's going to go into the dustbin of history when good men fail to step up and sacrifice anymore. And so I tell people, listen, I'm running for a job. It's an or. But if you vote for me and you support me, you're on the team. There's 4 ways, we all know this as Marines, but there's 4 stages to building an army: recruit, equip, train, integrate. Right now, I'm in the recruiting phase, and I'm looking for people with a Christian heart and a warrior spirit. G.K. Chesterton said these words. He was a famous English writer, and he wrote, the true soldier doesn't fight because he hates what's in front of him. He fights because he loves what's behind him. I'm not in this race because I hate Democrats. Look, I grew up in Cape Cod, for goodness sakes. I'm going to be the first conservative from Cape Cod to get elected to Congress. I just had to do it. But I'm not in this race because I hate Democrats. They're our countrymen, right? I'm in this race because I'm fighting tooth and nail to my last breath for those values and traits we all used to cherish: individual liberty, freedom,
Right.
Justice, right? Justice, and self-governance. Those are just the top 3 for me. And there's about 10 American traits out there, depending on how you count them. But let's start there. And,
well, how do you think with the 10th district, getting in to the 10th district, how you can help change for Georgia? I mean, it's kind of, you've got the council culture, like you had your 11, 12 things for Christmas, council culture, riots, CRT, shipping delays, gas. There are a lot of things, borders, and a lot of things that the average politician talks about. But if you were to drill down on just 2 of them, what 2 things is nearest dearest to your heart that
Okay.
you think you could actually get changed? Two
So
out of
writing U.S. policy, I'm going to rant. This is going to be a 3-hour show, right?
yeah. I got a bucket.
All right. I don't even know how much time we have left. How much time? Oh, yeah. So
2 hours.
here's my gig.
Tell your wife to go get you a cup of tea with honey
Nice.
and a little shot of whiskey.
Yeah, I'm sorry about this. I'm hoping it goes
No,
away. Hey, if this was like a college Zoom class, I could do this for you and you'd feel safer, right? Like I have my mask on.
Oh, I was already triggered. Don't worry about it. I was hiding in my man cave. No, go ahead.
No,
I'm sorry. So the
no,
two things.
that's fine.
Go back to
But
your two things.
when one of the things I worked on, a post-it was put on my desk one morning. It had 2 words on it. It said "Fix Lebanon." It was put on by an admiral. I looked at him, and then he said, "Yeah, Mattis wants you to fix Lebanon." And so my eyes hurt. We talked about that for a second. I said, "Can we define the word fix?" Because I got 88 million displaced Syrians coming across the border, living in the streets with no place to eat, bathe, feed their kids and stuff. That's a problem. The tri-confessional government can't deal with it because they're a mess. I got the entire Arab world boycotting the banking system of Lebanon, which is how they actually make this the number 1 industry there. But they're funding Hezbollah, and they're a terrorist group, and they're lobbing rockets. And I started to go through all the problems. He said, "Stop, Mitch. Yeah, fix all of that." You got 10 days, right? 5 days to frame the problem, 5 days to get the solution up to the State Department. But the thing is, we never fix it. But what we would do is look at all those problems and we'd say, what are the 2, 3, 4 things we could fix, address right now, give some aid to? Because if we can get the conditions in these critical things set, then we can set conditions for the other things to start to self-heal. Now, I look at our nation, circus, right? We got buckets of problems. But there are 3 things that I think that Congress needs to address immediately and in this order. And then that'll set conditions for things to get better. And what are they? Border security, our economy, and then education and culture. Now, for all of us Marines that have been on ship, we know that these things are very complex vessels. And on these complex organizations, everything is necessary. We can't walk down a gangway and say, "Hey, let's cut that wire, cut that pipe, cut that duct and see if something happens." Oh, I promise you, something will absolutely happen. But it doesn't mean it's critical. But there are 3 things on a ship. If you do not have these, the whole ship's useless. We know that we better have hull integrity or we're sinking. What good is the rest of the vessel? Yeah. We better have propulsion, either a sail or an engine. But anyone that's been deadlined in the middle of the Pacific, if you don't have propulsion, you're floundering and you just go wherever the winds and the currents push you. The third thing you must have is steerage. And the steerage is the mechanism that allows you to control your future. I'm at point A, I want to get to point B. Yeah. If you don't have that, again, the environment dictates where you go. So let's take this back to my first 3. Border security is our hull, and we are hemorrhaging. We have so much spillage coming over every single day. It's not just drugs, it's disease, it's human trafficking, it's terrorists and gangbangers, and then just good old-fashioned illegals. So we've got to stop that because it's compounding the problems, but it's sinking the country. We can't get our arms around it. And even after we secure it, we've got to back our cops. This thing about defund the cops is nonsensical. To clean up that spillage, I've got to have cops and sheriffs, certainly in the 10th district, to clean it up and give me safe communities again. Those 2 go hand in hand. So once I've got that, okay, we've stabilized the ship. But for propulsion, that is our economy. That drives everything. That pays for everything. We can't talk about infrastructure bills if we have no mechanism to pay for it. Prior to COVID, in November of 2019, the United States had the strongest economy in the history of Earth. We didn't just have record unemployment. We had record employment. We had more Americans working than in the history of our nation. We also had achieved energy independence. No serious nation ever goes from energy independence to energy dependence. And here's why. There's 4 things we've always needed to live. We've always needed air, water, and food. But today we need energy as well, because if I don't have refrigeration, food spoils. Just going back to our EMP talk. If I don't have AC and heating for families, they drop like flies. Why would I take a resource as valuable to human life as food and say I'm going to be energy dependent on it, shrink supply, and drive up costs? That's no way to fix an economy. So, and of course, you never pay people to sit home and not work, because money was invented to be a proxy for labor. You work really hard, you get this thing called money, you store it up like acorns, so when you're not working, whatever.
Now we're in the trophy
Okay.
for everybody generation. Come on, man.
Debit
Everybody
cards to
gets a
all my
trophy.
new residents coming across the southern border.
Free credit cards, free
Now,
phones. Don't worry about it.
so that's our propulsion, and we've got to get that back, and then we can look at other things. But we can do nothing or pay for anything without that going. Then the final thing is education. That's our steerage. Where we go as a nation 10, 20, 30 years from now, this is a fact, is determined by what competencies and skills we teach in our classroom today. Now, when you and I graduated in 1983, we were number one in the world for education still. I know the Department of Education formed in 79, but it was only on paper by Jimmy Carter. It had no building, had no TO or staff. It had no budget, wasn't plugged in. So the states for those first couple of years in the 80s were still finishing up, kids in high school. Number one. So we had gone to the moon in the 60s. We did it 5 more times in the 70s to show the world we can do it all day long. We invented the space shuttle. Then we had the Hubble telescope, and we moved on to cell phones. I mean, Bell Labs was kicking out 4 patents a day on average. We were brilliant. Today, our kids are 25th in the world for math, reading, and science. 25th. So number 1 to 25th. Estonia is number 7. And so people will say to me, well, Mitch, Estonia, they're so small, they got so few kids, they get all the attention, all the resources and all this, but we have tens of millions of kids. I'm like, you're making the argument for me. I have 50 Estonias. They're just called states. We've got to push it back to the communities, because there is a proven line of where we were and where we've gone, and it correlates with the Department of Education. It's got to be eradicated, and that will drive our culture and our future. But the average American today reads at a 4th grade level. Now, as far as the 10th district goes, I got 18 counties. They're like, what bills would you pass in order to make this better? I'm like, thank God I don't have to write anything. This is self-help. All we have to do is get back to basics. Any day these 18 counties want to work together, we can dictate what's taught in our schools, whether our businesses are open or closed, or our churches during a pandemic, whether we're going to mask up or not, how much we're going to fund our police. We could live as free any day we want to if we work together, right? It's hard if you're one county surrounded by a bunch of liberal counties. But
is Jake Raby? Go ahead and get a drink. Is Jake out there with you? Is he in one of your districts?
Jake Raby is in my county. Jake Raby lives 4 miles from my new house.
Jake is my hero. He's my idol.
He is another awesome
Marine
guy.
Boy, you know what?
But I'll tell you, Ava, man, Ava runs that house. She is his hero. They do a lot of fun things together.
Yeah, I pity the Georgia boy that decides he's going to date Ava. She can outshoot him, outrun him, outdrive him. Yeah, she do pretty well.
Yeah.
Are you guys? How's everything down there with mask? And are you guys open, free business?
I will tell you, for all the heat, and rightfully so, to Brian Kemp after this election, what he did when he said up front that we were going to shut down and flatten the curve for 2 weeks, and did that. 2 weeks we opened up, and he said everyone can make their own decisions. When I heard that, I'm like, dude, you're going right to the White House. You couple that leadership with the heartbeat bill, unstoppable. But, there's so much we don't know about, November 3rd of 2020. And I got to be honest. We know when you have 5 states and Trump's leading in all 5 at 10 p.m. and then they say we're all closing and going home, but don't. And then 5 for 5 the next day. That's pretty spectacular odds for that to have occurred.
Right.
I think the idea of forensic audits, we've invested in Georgia. We spent $126 million into these Dominion servers, and we want to know that they're accurate. That's all we're saying.
And what they find out?
I believe those drop boxes brought in counterfeit ballots. Now, can I prove it? No, we have to do an audit. But I know this. One guy, literally a GOP senator, state senator, said, well, Mitch, I feel that something bad happened, but we don't have any evidence. But then he did the victory lap about this new integrity law, which was great. But one of the reasons he said we needed it is that 1,200 votes came from one residence in Fulton County that no one lived in. And I put my hand up and I'm like, hey, dude, that sounds like evidence to me. And he goes, well, you'd think so. But we don't know who printed them. So we don't have anyone to prosecute. And therefore, it's not evidence. Well, that logic is flawed in so many ways. But you and
Sure.
I know very simply, if I go down to a convenience store and I give them a 20, 50, $100 bill, I got a 19-year-old there with a marker and goes, hey, this is counterfeit, and I'm not even giving it back to you because they
Yeah.
pull it from circulation. Well, you don't know who printed it, so let me keep spending it. That's nonsensical. Of course not. You pull it from circulation. All I'm saying is we do an audit, make sure they're all legit. Anything that's not, pull it from circulation and give us a valid count. But
And
that is the
did they do
wrong.
that, or are they still working on that?
Oh, everyone's still talking about it, but it's like everything else, right? We're going to hear what happened in Benghazi pretty soon, too, right? I'm still waiting on that Durham report. But, that's the problem right now. It's not just election integrity, Taco, it's integrity across the whole of government. I still have questions about the Afghanistan withdrawal, with our elections, with the source of COVID, what's going on with vaccines, what happened at January 6th. Well, someone explained to me the DOJ and FBI's role in impeachment things that went tied to a Steele dossier that has unraveled weeks into that whole shenanigans and is
Right.
still going on. We don't have any integrity. We used to be such a wonderful country, but I'll listen. I still like to listen to old comedians. I'm telling you, George Carlin was a prophet. That guy is like, listen, if the government tells me something, I don't believe it. Never believe what the government tells you. But I think we grew up in an era in the 70s where if the government told us something, we were skeptical. Like, I'll believe it when I see it with my own eyes, especially in situations when money and power were in play. And we'd be like, oh, yeah, this isn't good. Someone's going to make a killing on this thing, and I'm going to be powerless and have to pay for it. So
Well,
you look at those things
here's
across.
you say integrity, which I agree with, but accountability. Nobody is held accountable. Okay, nobody, because you have big tech and media crushing any dissension or
Oh,
any discussion about anything.
and they're
And
private agencies, right? They're not public
yeah, they're
institutions.
not public. So I mean, but in our just take for government, Biden, if they had allowed the New York Post story, hadn't crushed the New York Post story about Hunter Biden's laptop, which led to all of the collusion between his father, China, the money, all that stuff, that would have turned the course of the election. I truly believe that. But
Oh,
because
yeah.
they suppressed that information, and if you said Hunter Biden's laptop, you're a conspiracy theorist. Now you go from you're a conspiracy right wing nut job. Now we're domestic terrorists because we're former military.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, my pigment happens to be white. Oh, which makes us racist as well. Everybody's a racist now.
And Christian.
All these overused
Yeah.
things, Russia, Russia, Russia. Now we're all of a sudden behind Ukraine. Why? Maybe because Hunter Biden and his dad got some deals with the oil stuff, but that's not going to come out. The whole stuff with Fauci and who funded the gain of research and what patents did we give from the labs in North Carolina to the Wuhan lab. Hey, that's conspiracy theory, right? Yeah.
It's all
I got to
right
read.
here.
I'm going to read that
Documented
book.
conspiracy. Well,
Yeah,
listen.
but it
So
just drives me nuts
we
that
grew
there's
up in
no
the magical time.
accountability.
You and I grew up watching One Adam 12 and the FBI files and things like that. We love these institutions, and something wicked has happened. And the thing is that we don't have leaders that we can trust anymore that actually have empathy for the people up in DC. Now, one of the problems that I see in elections, and I see this when I do debates with people, like, do you think you can win? Or you do a debate and then everyone's going to the car going, who do you think won? That shouldn't be the question people ask. They should say, who do you think the leader is? Who do you think can lead? Everyone listening to this show should run for office. If you were in the service, you've got more leadership than most of the people. You've been exposed to things. It doesn't mean that we're really smart. It just means we have a broad range of experiences and we remember some of it. And if you went to the War College or and pursued other degrees, and continue to read, you're a pretty bright cat. But, we don't have leaders up there. But the question about who do you think can win, there's two ways to look at that. Right now, it'd be like, who has the most money? There's two candidates. One has over 800,000. He put 400 in himself. Another guy's he just said he'll put in 700,000. And pretty soon people are buying elections. So if you're looking for the richest guys, they'll win. By definition, Congress is only filled in its halls with people that won. They're all winners of some campaign.
But they got zero
But they're
leadership.
not leaders. And so,
Yeah.
this is still America. And so we know the value. We've been raised on these words. You get what you pay for. And so when people say, why don't I have good leaders up there I vote? Well, if you have a candidate you really like, then stroke them something. Give them $100, $200, $1,000. Buddy, I've been blessed. I've got some buddies in the Corps that have known me since OCS or even college, and they've stroked the full 2,900. And, you feel a lot of responsibility when someone goes all in on you like that. And,
Yeah.
but if anyone can help out, that's what makes the difference. I don't have that kind of coin to put in, but I've got fight. I've got experience. I think I'm the advocate that a lot of people are looking for. And I'm looking for a niche market, man. You better have a Christian heart and warrior spirit. I mean that. The only thing that's going to bring this country back is masculinity and Christianity. It is a simple formula. It sustained the Boy Scouts for 113 years until they were told to compromise on those principles, and now they're bankrupt. Now, I'm not saying they didn't have problems in the past. Interlopers always get in, right? Boys got assaulted even years ago, but at least they were working at keeping that contagion out of there. But when you lift that filter and say, no, let them all in, then they do what they do. And then we're all surprised. So, we get back, culture is the mortar that keeps the bricks bound together. And if you erode that out, everything collapses. And
Well, servant leadership is huge. And you brought that back, talking about Boy Scouts. We were all Boy Scouts when we were kids. Then Civil Air Patrol. But we were watching the 12 Mighty Orphans. And that was filmed here in Fort Worth. I got a buddy that I interviewed that was in that movie. But the 12 Mighty Orphans, a Hollywood production that is Christian-based values, but goes back to a time when, like, I'm a Shriner and, Mason. And when I got raised in downtown Fort Worth, in the building that they used in the movie, that is a group of guys that volunteer and do a lot of good stuff behind the scenes. And in the movie, it's depicted because the home for boys during the Dust Bowl and during that whole era, there were kids that were abandoned left and right. So you had all these orphans, and they took the orphans and brought them in and raised them. And in this one particular case, the coach was an orphan himself, and he was a successful guy, and he went in there and made a football team that just crushed these Texas Friday Night Light guys back in the day before
That's awesome.
the lights. It's a great movie. Have you watched that?
No, but I'm going to take it. I'm going to go queue it up tonight if I can.
It's on Amazon or Netflix. I can't remember which one we watched it on,
I'll
but
find it.
that movie is phenomenal. But if we could have more servant leadership that those people did, the one doctor for the
we also need masculine, authentic leadership. And I know
you don't like my hair bun. You don't like my hair bun? Come on.
No, and your skinny jeans. Listen, I only have skinny jeans because I've just gotten on so much weight. My bell bottoms are skinny jeans. No, but when we look across the country and remember back when Dan Cathy of Chick-fil-A, all he said when asked, personally, he supports biblical marriage, and people lit their hair on fire and then protested. Right. And then we had Chick-fil-A Day, and 585,000 Christians went and bought a chicken sandwich because they wanted to do something to show support. But that's where we're at. We're so angry and feel so betrayed, and we want to bring things back that we're out buying a chicken sandwich, hoping that makes an impact. And I think that if you go out there and speak the truth, people will resonate. We know that to be true because of that example. And so that's where I'm trying to do. And everyone here, listen, I feel as if we have betrayed generations before us because this all happened on our watch. No young man or woman is going to join the Marine Corps and have the experiences we had in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. Those are gone unless we make a stand. Everybody here knows no one was ever drafted into the military. Oh, my uncle got drafted into Vietnam. No, he didn't. He registered with the Selective Service. Selective. That's an important thing. He was drafted to appear for them for the longest physical he ever had. You've never duck walked. You're going to duck walk today. So we want to make sure that you're physically and mentally fit. We still to this day don't take people that wet their beds or sleepwalk. Not because they're bad people. I want them to have an abundant life, but psychologists tell us there's an internal pressure there, and we don't know how it'll manifest under stress and combat. So have a
Right.
great life. Why would I take a man who mutilates his body and dresses like a woman and say you're fit for duty? You're no longer a male role model for young men because you've surrendered that, and you're not a role model for women because you're not a woman. And we owe it to mothers and fathers whose kids enlist and go into combat. And listen, we got some geopolitical pressures right now. We're going to be in a shooting war, I think, in the next 18 months, if not sooner. But I must field those young men with the strongest righteous warriors to the port and starboard so that they all come home together. And it is no one's right to be in the military. My goodness, after Pearl Harbor, people were committing suicide that lined up to enlist and were kicked back. I'm sorry, man, you're not A1 status. And so these guys were actually so distraught and ashamed they
killed themselves. Did you watch the video of the Russian? It was a Russian recruiting advertisement.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
You see the dude wake up and he's like eating raw meat, jumping out of airplanes. And he's
but it
ready
stirred
to kill
something
somebody.
in you, like you wanted to be that guy.
Oh
right?
man, I'm like, I can identify with this because that's
Right.
what we grew up.
Like
But
sign me up. I wanted to try that test. Men want to be tested. Up the road. Did you ever watch the movie Band of Brothers?
oh yeah,
All right, so Toccoa, Georgia is just up the street from me. Those guys were so hardcore. They marched from there to Benning just to go to jump school.
yeah,
But they put it in Toccoa because when they wanted to form a regiment of airborne people, they didn't think they'd ever achieve those goals.
right.
They needed 5,300 men. 19,000 tried out, and they got their 5,300. But it was absolutely brutal. But I'll tell you, they raised that bar, and men will achieve it, even when it's high, high, high. No one could ever break the 4-minute mile until someone broke the 4-minute mile. Then everyone started to do that. It was thought it was a bar too high.
Right.
So, we like to be pushed, and young men thrive with that. And I'm sure I lined up for the Marine Corps back when the motto was, we're looking for a few good men. I'm like, oh, well, try me out. I want to make that team. But once it becomes unspecial, and once you start to water that down, you have to feel some guilt. So I think we owe it to future generations to hold the ground right now. This is the hill to die on. We got to start making men the old-fashioned way. We've been making women strong for years, but honestly, we're all looking around going, what has happened?
Well, see, everything you just said in the last 10 minutes will put you on Twitter, Culture Council, hate mail. They're going to come to your house, and God help them if they come down to Georgia and think that they're going to walk on your property at night and try to deface your house. It's not going to happen in Texas. I guarantee you that. Come down Texas.
You're not putting out a social media challenge, I hope, like a pod thing. Like, well, no one can get to Swan's house.
Yeah, no, not at all, not at all. I invite those guys come down to our place all the time because you know what, we'd have some fun.
I am sorry about the scoff too. I know that took away from a lot of this.
No, we'd have some fun down here.
What did you just put up?
So we're all into our hobbies. Jake and I are into armor, and we both own the Ferret and the Fox. They're British armored scout cars, and one's got
this program was sponsored by the Fox Scout.
Yeah. You know what? This is the ultimate open carry in Texas, right? Everybody wants a 30 millimeter, and even if I just buttoned up and didn't shoot anybody, it's 8 tons of fun. You can just run them over. It's not. I mean, Antifa blocking the highway, bring it on. No, but
a lot of the people today would just faint. Oh, that offended me.
I'm already going to get banned on YouTube.
They look like those fainting goats when you scream at them and they faint.
Yeah. Now, what do you think about what's going on? It's amazing how bad we screwed up getting out of Afghanistan. And I mean, we screwed the pooch. We could talk for 2 hours on that, but I'm not going to do that to you.
No, we did.
The neocons that are trying to get us into
like that
war.
was a mistake. It was a horrible betrayal, but that was deliberate. Someone made that conscious decision to do that. No, it makes no sense to you and I. But somebody's like, that's exactly what we wanted to have happen. And that's the wickedness. And we're never going to find out. That goes back to that transparency and hold people accountable. My heart goes out.
Transparency, accountability. Nobody
My
is
heart goes out
accountable.
to that young kid, that lieutenant colonel.
Yeah.
We all know he's going to have to get the book thrown at him. But, people in Congress, especially retired veterans, the ones that go on these talk shows, most of them are voice boxes for active duty generals. Like, look, I can't say that, but if I was on Fox, my friend, I'd really like someone to ask this question.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they do. They're advocates. But, when you elect, we need to get veterans up there in D.C. because we're supposed to be the watchdog and let them be the guard dog. Let them do their job. But no one's holding them accountable. And the guys I'm running against, none of them are going to think that way. So,
well,
but
wish you
yeah,
luck, man.
the heartbreaking thing is that was done deliberate. On July 2nd, when the entire Bagram Air Base is emptied overnight, and the Afghan commander isn't even told that was going to happen, so they pulled out ISR. And for everyone that isn't like staying up on stuff, ISRs gave them eyes in the sky. And so the Afghans had supported the security measures of their country since 2014 and doing a great job. And ISR would say, hey, you got a bunch of people coming down, Taliban coming down from the Pakistan mountains, go intercept them. And they did. But when we stripped that all out, those next several days, we had Taliban coming down the mountains, going out into the hamlets, and then an armed larger force coming into Kabul. Unknown. Like, they didn't know. If you had told them, they would have engaged them. Now, in fairness, when everything fell and the Afghans dropped their weapons and ran, listen, they live in a corrupt society, and they knew they're going to get set up for ambushes. No one's got their back. They're certainly not going to get paid. Their family's in danger now. And, oh, yeah, the Taliban has all this armament and weapons now. So, they bolted.
President Biden. No, but, now I sit there and go, you got us we finally got out of there. And in all honesty, I'm proud of my service in Iraq and Afghanistan. But, and I put a big but in there, if I was king 20 some years ago, I would have bombed. There was a SBC in TBS that had a sign that said, the mission of the Marine Corps is to kill as many of the godless communist bastards and their subhuman immoral cohorts as possible with the least expenditure of munitions, and to integrate all supporting arms into restoring cave dwelling as a permanent way of residence in the former communist region. Well, just take communists out and put terrorists. I would have had B-52s, aluminum sky. I would have had B-52s, just let the Air Force do their deal, drop bombs, and just wipe them all out. And then, you know what? Here's the warning. You guys build another terrorist camp, we find it, we're going to bomb you to Allah next week. Well, and just kept doing that. But why we went in there and then we turned left and went into Iraq, I never got that part.
So as you're watching the similarities, so there's certainly visual similarities between Saigon in 1975 and what happened last year, right? People hanging on aircraft. What people don't think about is the second and third and fourth order of effect, right? So we go back to Saigon in 1975, and it was Russia. We were going up against Russia, and Russia kind of won. And we exited and looked ugly. And we retreated back into our country after 10 years of conflict. But what people don't realize or remember is that in 1975, our best ally in the Middle East was Iran. And they were much like us. They were certainly westernized. Women could wear dresses. They could drive convertibles. They can go to school. They had the highest literacy rate, if not just education rate in the region. Great trading partners. And so by 1978, the last Persian monarch, the Shah, is calling us going, hey, Russia's kind of stirring up some stuff here. It's not looking good for me. Can you come and help? And we're like, not really good for us. It's Russia, bad optic. We're kind of war weary. And, you got this. And he didn't. And so in January 1979, the Ayatollahs took over. And today, they're our sworn enemy, right? Women are certainly not driving convertibles, wearing mini skirts and stuff and running around. They don't have the education they used to have. But most importantly, they're our sworn enemy. So it went from best friend to sworn enemy. And their best trading partner now is Russia, who, because of Hillary Clinton, actually mines uranium in our country because we gave them the rights, then sells it to Iran to, run through centrifuges. But those things.
No accountability.
So the problem is, what's going to be the second and third order effect of our ugly retreat? And I think it's going to be China taking over the Central Asian states. They've already got Bagram. They're going to have the Silk Road that we built. They're on the move. That's going to give them a great deal of momentum into the South China Sea. We have a lot of allies that right now are like, wow, look what they did for Afghanistan after 20 years of hard work. Nothing, right? We always thought, we never knew we'd have victory, but I think we all believed that the Afghans would have a better lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
I had a surgeon talk with me one time, and he was an Afghan refugee. He was living here in Georgia, staying with some friends, and he was like, oh, I got to talk to this guy, Colonel Swan. So I met him. And I said, what's in your heart? And he goes, don't give up on Afghanistan. It can be a great country. And I said, oh, I agree. I absolutely think it could be. But tell me what that looks like. And he's like, what do you mean? Well, define what great is. Like, can you give me an example? Pick one of the 57 Islamic nations and tell me of those that you think Afghanistan can be like. Can it be like Saudi Arabia? Oh, no. I know UAE, no. Malaysia, no. Indonesia, no. None of the Pakistan. That was just being a punk. He's like, no, not Pakistan. And I said, well, you can't come up with one. But I said, I think I know what you want to be. You want to be the Afghanistan of 1950. And he's like, he points. He goes, yes. I go, all right. Well, you don't have to be more American. You don't have to be more Christian to be that. You just have to be less Islamic in your government. And he looked at me in horror and goes, we can't do that. There you go. Well, then you're never going to be that.
You're going to still be in 1482.
Yeah. And that's really, that's kind of the problem with all those nations. They were all wonderful at one point, and we see where extremism can take you. And I'm not going to be brutal to their culture, but you need to, you can be extreme when that extreme is based on love and not control. I'm going to leave you on one quote if we have time, or we already busted a minute.
No, it's okay.
Oh, I'll keep going. This is something that really, it's a quote, and I don't care if people say, well, maybe Napoleon said it, maybe he didn't. Well, the internet gives him credit, and I will try to go to the source documents, and it appears that, it's a shortened version of a longer discussion. 1812. First of all, Napoleon, not a Christian, brutal dictator. He coined the phrase rule with an iron fist and a velvet glove, and he wanted to control the world. But he said to his friend, and this is a long quote, I know men, and Jesus Christ is no mere man. Among him and every other, there's no possible comparison on earth. Charlemagne, Alexander, Caesar, and I built empires, but upon what did we rest our genius? Upon force. Jesus Christ built an empire based on love, and at this moment, millions stand ready to die for him.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that observation was really the declaration of a conundrum for him. He's like, no matter how brutal I am, I'm Napoleon. I can't break the will of these Christians because they have given themselves to a higher God, an ideal, and they're willing to die for that belief. So he respected us and he feared us. But if you go into China and Cuba, the Middle East, Russia, they repress Christian expansion. So if you Google China today, and Google churches being torn down, you're going to get images within the last few months of, big earth moving equipment tearing down cathedrals. It's got to be bridled, and it's a threat to totalitarian dictators. And that's why I try to make that parable. For as a Christian, the thing that troubles me is, do those millions still exist that Napoleon feared? I hope so. And I hope there's people watching that feel like, yeah, I'm one of them. Well, then, brother, let's start working together. And we're going to start getting that connective tissue.
Yeah, I think we are the majority more than people think.
Yeah.
I think conservative, well, we're older, but conservative thought is still the majority, but the minority is so vocal and has the mouthpiece of tech and media so that any dissension gets squashed.
All right. Showing off my war college studies, I get accused of being professorial. Here's another great quote, very short. Heraclitus, Greek philosopher, 500 years before Christ, he said these words, for every 100 going into battle, 10 shouldn't even be there. 80 are just targets, but 9 are fighters, and we're thankful for them, for they make the battle. But one is a warrior, and he brings the others home. Even in every Marine unit, we got 100 guys. We know if 10 of them went home with their drama, the rest of us have a much better day in the workspace and get a lot more done. We also know that 80 of them, they'll just do what they're told. They're not bad. They're not great. They're reliable, right? They'll do what they're told. But man, you got that gunny, that master sergeant, sergeant major, that young captain, major, lieutenant colonel, and they're just hitting it, man. And then you got the one guy who's kind of, leading the whole parade. And so to your point, yeah, it is a minority that makes the difference. So let's find those 9 and 1 that are on our side and
Yeah.
start kicking it up a notch, because the 80 will follow us and the 10 we don't care about.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see a Build Back Better group of people wearing a hat, blue hat that says Build Back Better. But I could definitely walk down the street in Dallas, Texas, when President Trump was there a few months ago, and every single swinging, you know what, there had a red hat on, and to make a
Dude, they used
MAGA,
to remember the other side used to wear vagina hats. And
yeah,
that again, that was virtuous. Trump hat, make America great again, bad.
bad,
We
yeah,
flipped everything on its ear.
yeah, that's crazy. Well, good luck to you in there. I just, like I said, when you get up there, please do me a favor and get up with Ronnie Jackson. I believe you will be elected. And when you are and you're sworn in, go find my buddy Ronnie Jackson. He's got some stories from Iraq. And you guys band together. I agree with you that we need more vets in a position of public service, because right now is that person's talking about, or his State Department's telling Russia, Putin, oh, if you cross this line of death, we're going to do something really bad. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
You're going to drag us into another war, into a country that I really don't give a crap about. And I guarantee you, if I did a man on the street and walked around, people can't even point where Ukraine is on a map. I know where it is, but I guarantee you they don't. So why are we sending our boys and girls over there to fight, Mother Russia on Ukraine? Fine, let them have it. I mean, it doesn't. I know I joke about that because
No,
then
well,
next thing I
well,
know,
they're trying
China's
to
going to take over Taiwan, which I do care about. But
and there you go. And so we're making a tough stance on Russia because we're too big of wimps to actually tell China to its face, you can't have Taiwan.
no,
Because
because
that's
that
the
would
fact. Now,
interrupt all
some
the
people say,
Hollywood
well,
movies.
Mitch, why Taiwan? Maybe should we fight for it? Okay, let's move the line back. You're going to fight for Japan? Well, World War II. I really don't care. All right, you're going to draw the line at the Philippines. You're going to draw the line at South Korea. You're going to drop the line at the Marshall Islands. I mean, you can keep backing up that line right to the, well, what about California? At
Yeah,
some point, you're going to have to just be the world leader again, and we're not respected. And going back to your point about Afghan, everyone we've got treaties with got to be like, oh dear God, if that's what help looks like after 20 years,
yeah,
no, thank you.
yeah. And there's the leadership right now. Even if we had a power change, even if the president woke up and said, "You know what? I decide I'm done. I'm going back to Delaware. I've had enough. I can say I was president for a year," and he resigns. Then we've got vice president in there, and then who else do we? If even if a meteorite hit her in the head, then you've got Pelosi. And there's Pelosi. Tell me how a politician is a multi millionaire. I want that job. I hope I never see uh, the stock trading of Mitch Swan. Hey, follow Mitch Swan on his stock
Hot
trades.
stock tips, yeah.
Yeah,
Um, well, so
so
people come up and they're like, "Hey, how do you feel about impeaching, Biden for mental incompetency and get him out of there?" And I'm like, "Oh hell no! Keep him in there. Keep him in there for long. Make them own him." And they say, "What do you mean?" And I said, "If I was in Congress right now, I would pass a bill, propose a bill that would say, if a president is removed from office for mental illness or incapacity, just like a judge." All those executive orders that just changed the trajectory of my country get pulled back.
ah oh my God, I'm
Now
making this
listen,
flip.
hold
That
on.
is great.
Right. So you say, so one, stop doing any more executive orders because you own that bag of peanuts up there right now and
Yeah,
live with them. But if you pull him, now I can't just throw them in the waste bin, right? They've been put into law because by executive order. But then I would add to the bill that the House and the Senate have to vote on it. So if you still want this, executive order that he passed, then, House, well, how do you vote? Yay or nay? Senate, how do you vote? Yay or nay? And that's the law.
hmm
But my fear is if you let him retire off into the sunset, those executive orders will stand.
hmm
And so we have to make it very painful that, because those are the things that broke our country. And so, you replace that individual with another individual. It's just going to be executive order that they're not making up themselves.
Right.
They're just signing monkeys up there. But that's one way to look at a problem like that.
Well, that's a great solution. That's probably, aside from no kidding term limits, that is probably the best solution I have ever heard anybody come up with.
Is
You
it
need to,
worth a donation? Now you
yeah, oh
gave me a
yeah,
donation, man, but
I
I'll take
made a
more.
donation, but I'll throw you another donation. But everybody out there, do me a favor, Wayne, all you guys on here,
Yeah, come on,
Randy,
Wayne.
Eric,
Let's hear you, brother.
no more. You guys, you get on here. You know Wayne?
No, but I heard you say his name.
Yeah. So
What did he put up
if
there? I can't even read it.
let's see what he put up here. Pulled out all the contractors taking care of sophisticated equipment, pulled our intel, pulled the plug, shameful. Now the people of
Yeah,
Afghanistan dealing with humanitarian. Yeah, exactly. Poor U.S. leadership. Ick.
and that was
I
the
think,
worst
Trump.
result.
Yeah, Trump at least had an idea and a plan on how he wanted to get us out. But cutting off your hand, you're never going to be able to pick your nose for the rest of your life. And that's what we did. We cut our hand off and screwed everything over there that you and I and everybody
Yeah.
else that was, had served over in Afghanistan or Iraq worked so hard to do. I mean, I was proud of
Well, sure. And
myself,
then you
although,
look at CENTCOM, and I forget the number, but we had like 38 other nations working with us. The UK was by our side, the French were by our side, the Canadian. We had a lot of people over there. I mean,
yeah,
numerous countries. And they all, if they didn't send troops, they sent money. And the way that we all know this, that you never engage in a fight unless you control the environment. Like, I'm going to fight you, but I'm going to fight you on my terms, right?
hmm
And so you control the momentum and you don't let the enemy get the upper hand. Well, the same thing is when you egress out of a nation too. I'm going to leave, but I'm going to do it on my terms. And Wholey did not do that. Although the plan was, obviously, I mean, a captain of logistics would have known not to do it that way. That's why it's so appalling to me and why I say it was deliberate. But we could have controlled that tempo coming out of there. And
sure.
not to retrograde that equipment, as we discuss, as we start talking smack to Russia and China, boy, I sure could use some of those vehicles and armament.
Oh yeah, I'd like to settle the just MVGs. Hell, give me a couple of those automatic M4s. I could put them to use. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen, brother. It's going to be interesting time, and like you say, I fear something catastrophic. And I'm not a naysayer. I just don't like the projection of what I see in our leadership and what's going on outside. The wolves are hungry, and I don't want to put my son, who's 14, 6 foot tall, in the hands of, hey, it's more important to wear high heel shoes to understand how a woman feels than to strap on some boots and hit the oak horse twice, in 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we live in a nation, everyone wants to have happiness. And I've never looked back and said, I'm really proud of that one day I felt so happy. What I'm always looking back on and reflecting with pride of those days were adversity. Life on earth is a furnace of affliction that we go through, and it determines our character when we come out the other side. And if anyone's like, well, I don't want to be tested, I want to sit here in the metaverse, watching porn and, tuning everything out, that's soul crushing. So
yeah.
the objective down here is not happiness, and you will find more self-satisfaction. You want to see some really happy souls, you go down to Paris Island when they finish the Crucible at 6 a.m. the day before graduation, and you watch these big guys fall to their knees crying because we just gave them the EGA, like communion. They hold their hands and we put it in there. We call them a Marine because they know they earned it. It was the first time in their 18 years on this earth in America that we set the bar high, and they know they left it all on the field.
Yep.
And they weep with joy. And they would not have that if we just said, hey, you're all Marines, go to the exchange and buy your EGA now. We're just giving them out to everybody.
Here's your boot camp ribbon. No offense to the Army, my Army brothers. Here's your boot camp ribbon. Here, hey, Firewatch women, here's your boot camp ribbon. Here's your Global War on Air. Here's your, I don't know, man. Well, listen, everybody, I've put his website up here. Do me a
Oh, thank
favor,
you.
if you can contribute anything, I don't care if it's $1, $5, $100, $1,000. We need guys like Mitch in service, and I am proud of you. I can't even tell you how proud I am of you. And please tell your beautiful wife the thank you for allowing me to borrow you tonight. In a year from now, I would be honored if you would come back and come back and talk to us about what you see through the looking glass now that you're on the other side.
We'll do that. But if I get some righteous donations, I mean, really, my only Achilles heel in this thing is the money, and I'm not broke. I've raised over almost $250,000 in 2 quarters. People
Right.
are generous. I mean, but when you're up against giants with 700, now I've got I'm just south of 100,000 cash right now, and I don't like to share that. I just realized, don't tell your enemy what you got, but um, it is what it is. But
But
I'd
then
like
again, it's not the size of the dog because look
now.
at Trump against Hillary. Hillary was gonna win.
But this is a Tuesday evening show, boss. How fun would it be to live stream a victory party with you? Yeah, that's what
Oh
I'd like to
man,
do.
November 8th or the
I'm going with May
24th.
24th. I got to
You
clear
want me?
that one hurdle in
All right.
4 months.
You know what? I'm going to write that down. May 24th is his first primary. And then, of course, November 8th will be the second hurdle. So let's cross the first hurdle. Everybody, do me a favor. If you share this, tell your friends. I know you don't live if you don't live in Georgia, sometimes it's like, well, do I support? Yes,
Yeah.
support the guy that's doing the right thing.
Pelosi's
And
not my
find,
representative, but she causes me ass pain every single day. You
yeah,
know, bad leadership affects all of us.
yeah.
So,
So go find it. I've got one question here. Jim Snyder asked,
Chan.
in regards to Afghanistan withdrawal, do you believe Trump would have prolonged the U.S. presence if they thought the government there was going to fall so fast? He was the one that was set the withdrawal timeline. I believe that he would have, yes, still continued the withdrawal, but he would have done it in an organized and sensible way. And we're talking 80 years after World War II, and we're still in Germany, and we're still in Japan, and we're still in Korea after the Korean War.
Yeah.
So we haven't had war there since. So it makes sense to keep 2,500 guys. They do a rotation in Afghanistan. They're not going to like it. It's not going to be nice. The Milton Hall is going to be the good tour, and you got to pay back with a bad tour in Afghanistan or
Well,
Iraq.
you set a tone also when you say I'm going to leave on our terms, and you can say our withdrawal will begin at this point. Leaving a completion date as a milestone, controls our enemy. So when you leave that kind of obscure, but we should have certainly said, we're going to leave, like we said, we're going to leave as it makes sense, and we're going to do these steps to make sure all Americans are out, all Afghans that supported us are out. We've done that. We brought over 100,000 back from Vietnam. When people act like this is a new thing, it's not.
Yeah,
But
but we brought
we
back
wholly
100,000.
grabbed just people off the street. So that was not how that was supposed to roll.
Yeah,
So I
we've
have to
got people
believe,
at yeah, we have people at Camp Upshur right now that are just walking away and melting into DC, and heaven help them, man. I hope they weren't
yeah.
hardcore Taliban guys.
But I can tell you, if we can get some veterans up there, there'd be a lot, at least veterans screaming that we should have done it in a more organized fashion. But
Yeah,
we've got to somehow get back to being the leader of the world, because people do want to be like us, but not when we're a crap show like we've been these last few years.
and we have.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Mitch, God bless you. Thank you so much for coming on tonight. Like I said, May 24th, I will put that on my calendar. We'll have a special live streaming. I just want to see you win. All
All
right.
right, boss. Thank you
All
all. You
right,
have a
man.
blessed night. Semper Fidelis.
Semper Fidelis, you have a great one. Hoorah. Hang on a second, all right? You hang
Sure.
out for a second. Here we go. Folks, thanks again for joining me with Tall Tales with Taco, along with Colonel Mitch Swan of Georgia. Do me a favor, like I said, send them $5, $10, $50, $100, whatever your wallet can handle. We need good, solid Americans like that in office to counter the idiots that we have up there. Unfortunately, I don't understand how our country would vote in someone like AOC because she's popular on Twitter. Zero leadership experience. Zero. Am I doing that right? Zero. What is that? Zero, zero. Big goose eggs. Zero leadership experience. She can't even lead a group of terrorists out of a burning paper bag. I mean, zero leadership experience. Anyway, AOC, Congressman AOC, if you hear this, know that I have zero respect for your socialist views. And we want guys like Mitch Swan in office to take care of that. So I got off my normal military theme thing here and I kind of got into the politics and I apologize, but it means a lot. And I'm going to have a couple more people that are running for office that are former military that are going to come on the show. I'm trying to support these people and I'm trying to get them in office so that we don't have another crap show like we did in Afghanistan and Iraq called Ukraine or Taiwan. So, you guys, until next week, take care. Adios. Hasta luego. So, wiedersehen. Tschüss. Shishini. Au revoir. Domo arigato gozaimasu. Shinde. Kudasai. Ciao. Rivedici. Das Vidania. Might as well throw that in there. We'll get used to it. You all take care. And I will end with Michael Costanza's outstanding clip, this one.